Go, you want to go?
When you talk about giving people practical experience, many organizations, and I cannot talk about outside organizations, but the federal government has the summer student program. We are always looking for people.
Then we return my
I would be
calls.
dying to get a few students this summer to help me set up some things in the FAA, try some things in the FAA. I will kiss your feet.
And I will
Physically,
take a
not
picture.
only literal. If you send me some students.
I think one of the outcomes of question 3 should be that we sponsor on the wiki a place where any company that would like to have, any organization that would like to have student practitioners, that they have a KM opportunity, they can advertise that, and we can provide that to any organization that's teaching KM. I had 15 students at Georgetown this past semester do 2 projects for the World Bank, and I suspect that some of those students are going to get hired there very shortly because they did such a super job. Yeah. And the bank is now saying, forgive me, do all the consultants, but the bank is saying, why should I pay $350,000 to somebody to do an organizational network analysis when I can hire a student who can do it for $15,000 and I can educate that student. And
Well, on the other hand, though, Denise, if you have a student you've got, say, 3 or 4 students who did a phenomenal bang-up job for the World Bank and presents at a couple of conferences and gets their name known, that person instead, can go and work for a consultant.
exactly.
And not only that, but the consultancies themselves probably have KM issues.
Okay. So what do we think about the fact that we don't yet, and we don't have a single organization now that could address this credentialing and certification? Right now, each of us is struggling with certification. Each academic program, and we inherit the academic certification or credentialing from the university, but there is no way to say this is a legitimate KM program. So what are some thoughts from the panel on how we could improve this situation?
Well, one thought is we have quite a body of people here that are affiliated with this group. And if this group does some good work, by de facto, they become the standard. That's how standard bodies arise. They don't just, somebody doesn't put up millions of dollars to fund a certification or a standards body. It's people that are in that, quote, discipline who just take the bull by the horns and go out and do it. And after a while, they become the de facto standard.
You may want to go talk to somebody at ABET, the American Board of Education, whatever. They accredit programs, and see if there's a standard process. And we won't hire anybody from a school that isn't ABET accredited, so that they have a fair amount of weight.
Because we're interdisciplinary, does that mean we need to be recognized by multiple disciplines? Or
Don't
not?
know, but you don't know till you ask. I mean, I'm getting my master's in Science and Technology Studies at Virginia Tech. I don't even know if it's accredited, to be honest. But there's a model there because I had to study, oh God, did I have to study philosophy, history, policy, and sociology. I'm a nuclear engineer, for crying out loud. Sociology was painful. But I think I'm a more well-rounded person. I've gained at least 20 pounds since I entered graduate school, and I can hold my own in most conversations. But again, did that department have to get accredited or approved by each one of those four? I don't know. Pick up the phone and call the STS department, or call other places and see what they did. I mean, you would think that we'd be able to figure out how to streamline it once we know what other people did.
Well, I think the issue is, just like we're talking about KM as a discipline and how complex it really is, and how in an organization it crosses all boundaries. And I go back to my Baldrige criteria comment, where if you do something in section 1, it affects something over down in 7, and you have to understand those intricacies and those linkages. Same kind of thing I think applies here. I think you get a group of people who are passionate about it and have at least a fundamental understanding of what we're trying to do and start listing all the, using some of the previous work that's been done, listing the skills and competencies and all the other things that we touch. And then as we get there, it would be criminal. We'd be remiss if we didn't go to some other organization and say, hey, we think we need to know something about profit loss statements. And we reach out to some MBA program or something like that, say, if you were teaching it, what would we need to know? Because I'm not an expert in that, and most of what I've learned has been self-taught, painfully. But to have them assist us, and I think if we brought them in, we gain the credibility, because now we're working within their environment, meeting their standards. They're not going to look at us out of the side of their eyes and go, well, it's cute, but it doesn't really meet our standards. Well, if we bring them in and say, what are your standards? We need to meet them, but here's our criteria. Here's the framework we're working in, so I don't need to be a full-blown MBA. What do I need to know at an executive level to do my job? And have them help us put a curriculum together. And we say, here's the standards you have to meet.
I have an idea that was just triggered by something you just said. We've been toying with the concept of CEUs. Now, you all know what CEUs are, right? Continuing Education Units. Most professions require that when you get certified. You have to, over the next 3 to 5 years, do something. They could be college courses, they could be other training programs, they could be other types of involvement in things. Continuing Education Units. I've been thinking for a long time, since I've been involved in this for a long time, how diverse KM is and how we really need something else. And so I call the CEU a Certification Enrichment Unit, which says no one body can teach you everything you need to know. You really need to be ability to pull in other resources, even before you get certified, and certainly after you get certified, or before you get your degree or after you get your degree. We need, as a body of KMers, to build this body of knowledge. So I'll give you one example where we're actually doing that. It just started this year. The KM conference that most of you know that's been going on in DC now, this is the 12th year, just the past 3 days, I guess, Monday through Wednesday of this week. They're also working with us on implementing this concept. We video captured a good portion of those presentations. We had a solutions cafe on Monday afternoon where we polled the people that were attending and said, here's 28 possible real problem areas in KM. Which ones do you think are real areas? And we narrowed it down to 10, and a piece of paper that was distributed to most all of you has the 10. So we had a cafe, a solutions cafe, which is those 10 topics were at 10 different tables. People sat down at the tables and didn't just discuss and have a good conversation. They actually tried to focus in on, what are we doing in my organization to solve that? What are you doing in your organization to solve that? And we captured all of that. And then we rotated tables, and a new set of people came to the same table. The facilitator was the continuity. This is what the prior table talked about. You want to enrich it, or you want to go down some new paths? I captured all that as well. Now, here's the unique thing. We just didn't let that die. It's going to be published along with that conference. They have a motivation for doing that. They want the people to know that this KM conference really delivered some real learning. And so between this year and next year, that material will be out there. We're hoping to focus some communities around discussing, carrying the conversation on further from year to year. If we started doing that as a discipline, we'd get this thing done. I'm sorry, whatever we are, discipline or otherwise.
Yeah, if I could just throw one thing too. There's a lot of organizations, we just went through this in my organization, we have a bunch of auditors, and they're required every year to maintain a certain amount of credits to make sure they maintain their certification, their credentialing. There are a lot of organizations out there that have already determined what the CPU, CEUs, whatever it's called, they've already determined what that is out there. So we ought to be able to fairly easily get their buy-in and say, okay, if you teach this to this standard, here's how many educational units it qualifies for.
I'd like to talk strategy just for a minute. The Singapore Armed Forces has a strategy that they've been using for probably 30 years, which is very different than normally what we think of, and it works, at least in their culture, and I think it might work in this situation. And that is the theory that function follows form.